Welcome to the Hey Have podcast, where I dive in music, life-changing moments, important topics, and many more. In my previous episode with my good friend Kendall, I talked about navigating journalism and just what it's like to have fun but also have a balanced time with career. Please check that out on Hey Have podcast on Spotify, Apple, and many more. Tonight's episode, I'll be talking about passion projects, careers, and many more with my guest, Kia.
Hey Heaven, what's going on? I'm definitely excited to be on one of your episodes and talk about music and all of the other topics that we love to talk about, especially when we were in school together. So I'm definitely excited to dive in.
For you, Kia, and how's life been going, things like that. And for tonight's episode, me and my good friend Kia, we became college friends. We both had a few classes together last year. I believe it was web development and media ethics, law and ethics and things like that. And we both help each other one out and everything when it came to our classes. But we also felt like we became kind of close when it came to things that we were passionate about. And I'm just glad that we're collabing because I wanted to ask you these questions, but also because having fun and doing things that, for example, having a 9-to-5, but also not losing sight of what we love and what we like to create and what we do. So my first question is why are you, or why are we, why do you think that we're so deeply passionate about our hobbies or interests? And lastly is who or what inspires you to follow your dreams in poetry and photography?
I think we're so deeply passionate about our hobbies and interests because basically it fills us up. It gives us purpose and it truly makes us happy. Once you find that one thing that you basically can't live without, the one thing that fills you with bliss every single time you're involved in it, I think that's how we find our passion and find our love for what we do. What inspires me to follow my dreams in poetry and photography is basically the art that you can create just from your own mind. No matter what it is, you can basically create it and make it yours. And as far as photography, I just think there's so many things that can be brought to life, and not just be brought to life, but just so many things to capture. And that's why I take as many pictures as I do, because once I capture it, it's like I can hold that moment forever and make it what I want to.
And my other two questions are, how have our various artistic passions inspired our personal life? And as someone who's deeply passionate about music like me, or visual expression, do you think we can accomplish anything we want, including our professional careers? And do you have any goofy or fun questions you want to ask me too?
I think our various artistic passions have inspired and enriched my life by letting me create what I want to in the way that I want to create it, allowing me to express myself the best way I know how. And I think that's why it's so exciting. When you create your work, you can make it however you want to make it. And when I make mine, I want to make sure that it inspires a lot of people.
Okay, so my last two questions are a bit off topic, but you gotta have fun, right? So like what we said about our passion projects, having a good time, stuff like that, you know. So what made you enjoy All American Homecoming, and do you think this show inspires you in your own life? I would say personally, All American made me feel I can connect a lot more with HBCU, personal struggles, and just things that make your friends and your family come together and work with one another. And since it's Monday, we gotta have fun with this one. So make it Monday. The question is, what is one thing for example, like recipe, a craft, or project that you would like to learn to make? Me, I would say I would like to learn to make um something completely different, like when it comes to like desserts, something I never had before. So what is yours? And yeah.
Yes, I do think that we can accomplish anything we want, including our professional careers. I think we can do anything we put our minds to. It's all about the mindset and just being confident and not letting the failures hold you back. But I think due to our artistic vision, we can definitely pursue what our dream is as far as music and poetry, etc. So, yeah, I definitely think it's possible. Anything is possible as long as you have the right mindset to do what needs to get done.
As we are learning more from each other within our our artistry, whether it's poetry or finding things in common within All American Homecoming and anything that comes along in our future, whether it's something new, something that's similar, or something that is kind of like in our past. What questions do you have for me further on to our conversation? Because loving our passions is does set the foundation or the core to what brings people together, whether you can relate or you find that very creative or you find that very new or something. So, what you got to share?
So, my first question relating to music is, what are your favorite genres and why? My second question is, who are a few artists that you would say has had an impact on you? My last question relating to music is, who is an artist that you look at as more than just making music? Someone whose music makes a huge impact but also makes an impact in other aspects.
Hey, Kia. So, thanks again for these questions, and they're really changing my perspective on a lot of things. So, one of my favorite genres of music, or some are Latin, alternative pop a little bit, definitely R&B, hip hop, a little bit of rock, and gospel, and I can't forget jazz. And the reason why I name all of these, because on my mom's side I grew up with listening to different genres with her. It was jazz, it was R&B, it was gospel, it was a little bit of Latin too, but all those type of genres I grew up because my mom grew up in that type of music environment. And then when it came to my dad's side, it was neo soul, definitely hip hop, and a little bit of rock on that side. But listening to these genres made me start to become to find my own identity of what genre I like in music. A few artists that I would say has an impact on me: the late and great phenomenal singer Aaliyah, definitely Phyllis Hyman. Definitely her. She's one of the greatest singers to me, in my opinion. Logic, of course, and currently Joy Valence and Bray. And these artists that I just named all have unique personas of who they are as they continue on, or as they were continue on in their music journey. And they impacted me because it made me realize, like, I can listen to so many different genres of music, but I still can find my own way. I can relate to this person who's singing about a breakup, or they're singing about something about being lonely, or singing about being positive, or singing about something that is crazy in a party or something like that. Either way, they bring out the best and growth in their own journey and how that impacted me. And an artist that I look at is just more than just making music, is and has an impact to not just myself but other people, definitely Kendrick Lamar. Shout out to him because number one, he is definitely about the headline for the Super Bowl. I'm excited for that. But you could tell he's very, you could tell not just from the things that he was coming out with early this year, and I don't blame him. But it wasn't just that. You could tell he is for the culture. You could tell that he came from a background of being intellectual, the way he's lyrical, and just how poetic he is with his own craft, and how he's been evolving in so much made me realize like me to continue on with my own journey with different areas in my life.
I have two questions relating to film. The first one is, if you were to create your own, what would you want it to be about? And who is your favorite producer right now and why?
Okay. If I were to create my own film, and what would you want it to be about? If I create my own film, it would be about creating your own story. I know that's weird, but it'll be about a film about what stories you want to tell and how you want it to impact anyone, whether it's yourself, a friend, family, a stranger. I don't know. But that would be the film that I would create, because I've always been a person that kind of like to tell a story. I never knew what stories I wanted to tell, but I knew that telling a story was something that was very impactful for me to showcase since I was a kid. If I wasn't really as big into music like that, I would probably go more into film more, and maybe I will, and I never know what can and will happen. And who's my favorite producer right now and why? So I have two, actually. So the first producer that is my favorite currently is Dan Fogelman from This Is Us, who was the producer of that show. And what I loved about the way he produced that show or directed This Is Us at that time, it wasn't just how the main three characters, Kate, Kevin, and Randall, how they were portrayed as, but I like the back and forth timelines when there was an episode that focused on all three of them, or an episode that focused on one of each of them or their parents. It would tie back to like probably the name of the episode, or tie into something that relates to an episode later on, and it was very emotional, but it was also something that brings people together in such a different way. And I looked at filmmaking in that way. But I don't want to spoil it for you so much, because I know you're currently watching that show. And then the other producer is Bruce Beresford, and I could be wrong, but he produced the movie called Mr. Church, starring Eddie Murphy. And what I liked about that movie was the fact that the producer brought a family-oriented space, because not only because the girl, I think her name was Charlie, she basically, though the premise of this movie was a unique friendship develops when a girl and her dying mother retain the service of a talented cook, Henry Joseph Church, what brings a 6-month arrangement instead of spans into 15 years and create a family bond that lasts forever. And my dad actually introduced me to this movie at that time, and when I watched it, I couldn't get enough of it because of how the elements tackled on such as like family bonding, to like, health issues, to like when food was involved. I like how food was kind of like involved in different times of the main character Charlie's lifetime, and how Mr. Church kind of impacted her in her life in so many ways for her, from her being a child to being a young adult. And that's what I liked about that movie so much.
These next questions that I have are about painting, and I know that's one of your favorite hobbies. So my first one is, at what age did you start to become interested in this specific hobby? My last two questions about painting is, who or what inspires you in your paintings? And what is the main message in your paintings that you portray? Because I know each of us always have a specific message that we want people to see.
Okay. What age did I start to become interested in, okay, painting. So I was about 4 or 5, so I was like in preschool when I did like little painting activities, but I didn't think nothing much of it at the time. But then when I got up to like high school and I took a few art classes that was required for me, and I took this one class called Art Concepts, and it had the concept of that class was to do like different variations of art. This was my senior year. The year before that, I did something else that was more focused on like clay and printmaking and things like that. But then that year, we just did a lot of variations of art. And one time we did painting. And one of my portraits I had focused on, it was more like it wasn't like a self-portrait. It was like something that influenced you in your own life and you painted. So that's where I started with painting technically in high school. What inspires me into paintings or who? So I normally look at paintings on Pinterest and sometimes on TikTok, and I would see a lot of people would do their own style based off something that they interest them, like whether it's like gardens, or if it's something like a cartoon show like Mario or Super Mario or Sonic. And the type of style I always gravitate towards too was typographic or fonts, because not only because it's easier for me to draw and to paint, but I get to see different styles. Like it could be a cursive font, it could be Time New Roman. All of that made me feel like, okay, I can really do something like this. And my message for painting in general, I want people to know that it comes from the heart. It comes from me being humble beginnings and being grounded, but also be inspired by so many things that I see in my life. Sometimes I be inspired with people going outside, to me seeing friends catching up with other people, or like holidays, things like that. So that's what inspires me to like do painting. After reading, do you have a passion project, and why it's good to be a creative? I noticed these key insights to having a passion project, and I want your honest opinion about it, Kia. So, in the first article, do we have a passion project? I noticed that Jessica, she mentions they help us learn a new skill, and I believe it, because when we first started out into, for example, photography or film or anything, it didn't come natural for us at first. It took us time to understand what is it that we want to achieve and accomplish, and once we got the hang of it, it became a lot easier. She also mentions passion projects allows us to flex our creativity in a new way, and I definitely will say that it shows that we find our own style, find our own way to keep going when we're trying something new. Like we'll probably show other people what we got going on within poetry, or what we got going on with music. And the last thing that she mentions is they can help propel our businesses and brands forward. And I definitely agree, because for example, like me learning how to do a podcast, or you getting more active with your poetry, we learn that we can make this into something more than what we started off doing small. So let me know what you think of this part, and with why is it good to be creative. The biggest thing that stood out to me was in this article was thinking about creativity differently meant we could put forward suggestions about how we use it daily. Suddenly, we found ourselves talking about using our wardrobe, makeup, hairstyling as an outlet, and challenging ourselves to a cycle of our own lives. And I agree with that a lot more, because, for example, I'm not big on my hair like that, but me trying out new styles and figuring out what works for me and what doesn't, it shows that we can find ways to be more open-minded to something new and something different that, or with you and going into music, you like to sing or you like to write, and you learn that writing these songs and writing these lyrics allows you to figure out how to put that more effort into your own performance.
I definitely agree with what Jessica said as far as finding a new skill, and that skill making you become more confident, making you more used to it. Learning a new skill can definitely allow you to learn new things that you never knew before. I also agree with her saying passion projects can help propel our businesses and brands forward. How you said our passions can lead to something more than we ever expected. It starts out small and then transitions to something you never even thought of when you first started in the beginning. I feel like that's why creativity is so special, because you literally make it what you want. What was said in the article about coming up with ideas and suggestions on how we use it daily, that's the first step of whatever you decide to create. And like you said, the more we do it, the more we become used to it, and it definitely allows us to challenge ourselves, which leads to more great ideas. Creativity is really endless when you think about it, and that's the beauty of it. When I write my poetry, I'm in a space where I can express myself however I want to with words that have so much meaning. Same thing goes with my photography. When I think of the type of pictures I take, the passion I have for it allows me to capture those special memories that hold so much value. And there's still so much I feel I have to learn when it comes to photography. And that's where that creativity swoops in, and the excitement of it opening your mind to new things.
After reading All American Homecoming, creator talks in a spinoff with season 3 from the Rap.com article, I noticed these key insights from Nishi Okoro Carroll, who put her own personal and phenomenal insights from the star Jeffrey Maya. And I want your honest opinion about it, Kia. So, Miss Carroll, she says it proved to be defining year for Simone as a young woman athlete and a black woman who is learning how to advocate for herself. And I would say when watching season 3 or in the beginning of season 3 of All American, we can tell that the growth in Simone's character, Simone, that she put a lot of effort into her sport and the things that she's been wanting to do since she first came to Princeton University. And there were some trials and tribulations through that. We get to see her, coming from a breakup, being in a relationship, and then, dealing with her health issues and things like that. And her family, her on-campus family, it shows that she is a leader, not just for her team, but as a person. And I like the fact that Carol said this about Simone. She also says All American Homecoming was always her way to celebrating stars such as Venus and Serena Williams, Naomi Osaka, if I'm saying her name right, and Coco Gauff, who appear as herself in season 2. I did like that because even though I'm not a big sports fan or into tennis like that, you get to learn something new from a different sport you never really been into, but it shows that this shows inspiration for young black girls, even other girls too who are interested in tennis as well, and how Simone spoke up for her team and spoke up for herself, and allowing that we're not going to go through the things that other people dealt with in the past to go through. And the last thing, the creator said that she wanted to give them their flowers while they were still alive and could hear and see it. And that is so great that she used important figures and to create this character for Simone to show that it's not just about being inspired by other people, it's about how you make a great impact for others so that they continue on the legacy, whether it's through a show or real life or anything else. So let me know what's your take on it and how we can continue the conversation.
I agree with everything she said about season 3 of All American Homecoming. This season really showed Simone fighting for what she loves, which is tennis, and how she wouldn't let anything stand in her way. Since she first came to Princeton, she always put so much effort into the sport that she loves. Definitely went through many trials and tribulations, but she learned from them, and it made her stronger. And of course, when we go through tough times in life, we want a village to lean on. One of the main reasons why I love this show so much is because her family on campus is there for her. The way they're all there for each other warms my heart. It's those moments that I'll never get tired of watching. And she for sure is a leader. I love the fact that this show not only portrays how it is being at an HBCU, but the history and the athletes as well. The ones that built a legacy in sports. Me and you are in the same boat when it comes to not being in the sports that much. However, when I watch this show, I love to learn about all the great things they did and how we basically saw them carrying that same legacy. Definitely a huge inspiration to black girls who want to pursue tennis or any other sport. And I love how they made Simone a character that never backs down from anything, especially when it comes to tennis, and how she made sure her teammates would not endure what others did in the past. I think that's really important. It also gives people the confidence to accomplish their goals in whatever they want to pursue. This show is so great because while it portrays all the great things they do in school and in sports, it also shows those important people getting their flowers, which is a beautiful thing to see. It shows the impact they truly made and still makes today. I love those type of shows that shed light on the importance of something or someone, especially when it involves us. It makes me think about the type of films and shows I want to create and how I would really dive deep into highlighting those important moments when you tell a certain story and how it can make an impact. This show truly had an impact on me, and it was a special place in my heart simply because of what it represents. And we both attended the HBCU. We both got to experience what that was like, so this show hits different for me.
As I'm wrapping up this episode, I just want to give you guys a shout out to everyone who's been supporting me of Hey Hev for the past months. I know. I want you guys to know before this end of this episode is to love your passions. Find what you love to do and make the most of it, whether it's writing, acting, going into football, or becoming a sports analyst, or something that's completely different and it's something new you're really passionate about. Don't give up on the things that you love to create and show that to the world, whether they like it or not. And as I'm wrapping up, Kia, do you have any favorite writers and poets that inspires you? Is there a favorite poem that motivates you every time you write a new piece? And what advice can you give to new writers who wants to pursue a hobby in photography and poetry? Oh, and last but not least, what did you think of that goofy moment I had about Monday, about hobbies and things like that? I don't know. Please give us a good follow on Instagram at HeyHevArtist, Katie.expressions, and please subscribe to me on YouTube, Heaven Sauda, and my new goofy moments on TikTok, Hey Hev Artist as well. And tuning in for a few more episodes left. I think the next thing is, vibing with me. Alright.
I don't have any favorite writers or poets that really inspire me. I basically just write off of my own experiences and what I feel, because it's basically it's always been my outlet and how I express myself, like my safe space. The only poet that I would say that I really do get inspired by is Langston Hughes. However, I don't really know much of his stuff. I read some of his stuff a couple years back when I was younger, but these questions actually, they're inspiring me to, research more poets and get some more inspiration, because I've been really struggling for a couple months, and I definitely want to get back to my writing. It's just, writer's block. It's definitely a real thing. I don't really have a favorite poem. I would say my motivation really comes from what I experienced growing up. I feel this is a safe space, so I'm going to just open up a little bit. A lot of poetry comes from the pain I endured, and writing was always my main outlet. It was the one thing I stuck with, the way I could always express myself however I wanted to. And I know that with posting my work, there are so many people who can definitely relate. So I say all that to say my motivation mostly comes from my experiences, but not all of them are from what I went through. I write poetry about pretty much anything. There's always so much you can talk about. One recipe I would love to make is kind of similar to your answer, except I would really love to get into baking, more specifically baking a cake that's like real well designed. My grandma has been baking since I was a kid, and all the ones she made were so delicious. Watching her always made me want to get into baking, and I feel like with baking it's a bit more challenging as far as having to have all the measurements right. So I would definitely love to bake a cake or a certain dessert that will be considered underrated. Thank you so much for having me, Heaven. I definitely enjoyed being on here, talking about our passions, our dreams, while also shedding light on a really good show that portrays our experiences at an HBCU, a show we would truly miss. A show that not only highlighted what you go through as an athlete, but other important topics as well that we can all relate to. Being on this episode with you really inspired me, and all that we talked about can always lead to bigger conversations, and I would love to do this again with you.